All right, well, we're going to swing it over to Shay. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Shannon. I'm just here to press the buttons and to not send everybody into a black hole like I just went into. Thank you, Shay, for agreeing to lead this workshop for us. We are excited to hear more about proof of progress. And whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. Let's see. I'll start with my own homeschool journey. My background is that I went to undergrad for psychology, and I went to Hampton, and they had a program where you could take one more year and get a master's in teaching, and I was like, I'm never gonna teach, so no. Yeah, that was a bad idea. I ended up teaching anyway, doing career switcher a few years later because if you have a bad driving record and you want to work with kids in mental health, then your job opportunities are limited, even if you don't have to drive. So I career switched over to special ed for ED and LD because I figured those were the same kids I would see in mental health on a different side. So I did that for a little while, found out I hate the way our educational system runs. I've tutored off and on since 2003. One of my favorite programs is the Algebra Readiness Program that Virginia Beach and Portsmouth and a couple of other cities do. I really love algebra and math. And then when my first kid came along, by that time I'd had enough of education to know that I did not want him in the public school system. It turned out that was probably a good thing because he has dyslexia. He has undiagnosed ADHD. And I don't know, I don't trust that early on he would have done well. He actually went back to public in fourth grade this past year in January, got to go to public school for 2.5 months. And then there was a pandemic. So that's our family story in a nutshell. He's 10 now. I have a 4-year-old. And along the way, I also started a nonprofit, and part of our nonprofit supports the homeschool community. And one of the ways we do that is by offering evaluations. So Virginia is like in the middle of states. Some states don't require much of anything. So there are states where you tell them you're homeschooling and they don't ask you for anything else ever again. Virginia, and then there's like New York, which you have to submit your curriculum and they have to approve it. There's a lot of paperwork. I'm never moving to New York just in case I need to homeschool. Virginia's right in the middle. We send in the annual notice of intent, and then at the end of the year, they ask for proof of progress. Okay? So proof of progress is basically to ensure that your child is not being educationally neglected. And there are 2 ways you can do that. You can do it through I'm trying to figure out a standardized, a nationally normed test, which is not the same as a standardized test, which can be confusing if you're coming from public school, because in public school, sorry, I'm going to move because my air is not on and it's hot. Public school has the SOLs. And so most people, when they think standardized tests, they think like the SOLs. But a nationally normed test is a test that has been validated and used on students across the country. So basically, it's to show that your student is at least very minimally where they're supposed to be when compared to a same group of grade and age students, right? The standards in Virginia are super low. Basically, if your student is above 25% of the lowest scoring students, and it's usually in just math and language arts, then your student is considered to have adequate progress. Most families use the CAT test or Terra Nova. They've gone back to calling it Terra Nova. But that's the most common one. It's not very expensive. It's about $25. And there's usually like a $5 off coupon. They have an online version, an untimed version, and a paper version. I haven't looked at it lately. I know for a while the untimed version was only for, I believe, first or second grade and up. I mean, the online version. I'm not sure which one I said. So that's proof of progress. Some people use other diagnostic tests like the Iowa, the RAT. Those are traditional educational tests that usually have to be performed by by someone else other than the parent. That's another reason people tend to prefer the CAT/Terra Nova, is because it can be done at home with the parent. If you do the test, follow the instructions. Please follow the instructions. I know that for the most part, nobody will probably ever find out if you don't follow the instructions. And I'm not even that big on following rules. I am really big on keeping Virginia as low key as possible when it comes to our regulations. All right, so that's the testing part of proof of progress. The evaluation part is another option. It has to be a teacher that is certified in any state or someone with a master's degree in any discipline. They discourage parents and family members from doing the test for the student because you want to avoid the appearance of conflict of interest. Like, we don't know if mom just said, kid is doing great and they're not doing great. That's not really an objective way to provide proof of progress. More likely, you want an evaluator who can provide an objective assessment of the student. There are a lot of benefits to that. When you have somebody who is pretty well versed in education, a lot of families I find are very comforted by having an evaluator do it because it's another set of eyes that's very familiar with education, very familiar with kids, who can really tell you, like, okay, there seems to be a weak spot here. Your kids are doing really well here. I know a lot of parents tend to worry about where their kid is. And a lot of times their kids are fine, like absolutely and completely fine. I think this especially comes into play with reading. Most people, because of the way the US education system is, don't realize that the average age to start reading is between 3 and 8. So if you think about 8, that's third grade. And that's the average. So if you think about the bell curve, that means that there are some 2-year-olds who might start reading. There are some kids who don't get it till they're 10 or 11, right? But then again, there are also indicators for certain students who may need additional help and support because they have a specific disability around reading. With my kid, he went to public preschool. I really love preschool. If public school were more like preschool, I would probably be all for it. And he did really well with rhymes, and he knew all his letters, and he knew the sounds that they made, and his brain could not put the words together. For him, it was a visual thing, plus his brain tends to see a whole big picture instead of the finer details of like why D and B are not the same letter. So even now that he's reading, he didn't start reading till third grade with support and help. Even now that he's reading, it's not easy, and it's something that he has to really, like, he prefers not to read if he doesn't have to. But it's like dyslexia isn't something that goes away. So things like that. I don't see any questions. I'm going to go, I wanted to pull up the Zoom on my computer, but I couldn't. So I'm going to go to the frequently asked questions that we have on our website. And it says, who should get an evaluation? Oh, I'm sorry, Tamara. Is it in the chat? I might have missed it. Let me go to the chat. Chat.
She says no.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely. You want to unmute
I
yourself?
talk fast and I talk a lot, but ask questions, please.
Well, first and foremost, Shay, you are amazing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yes.
Great.
And thank you.
You're welcome, sister. I love the energy. I love seeing all of this. So far, just the information you've given, I've already been able to like fill up a whole page of notes. One of the things that I did have a question about is I noticed you said the basic minimum for Virginia with regard to this Terra Nova test, they only have to be at the math and language arts level. Is that correct? Is that what they're really basing?
Most, they can question it, but you can get the test results where you only get the math and language arts.
Okay.
And for the most part, that is sufficient. Like,
But
honestly.
you can do more. You can do all of the tests.
Yeah, you can do all of the tests. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. But math and language arts is really where the focus is going to be with any type of education for the most part.
Sorry, here come one of my loud kids. So if I go on mute all of a sudden, that's why.
I got
busted in the room like a juggernaut.
I got a 4-year-old that won't let me have a Zoom anything in peace.
Okay, so that is actually really good to know. And just to make sure I'm understanding right, you said it's called the CAT, or also known as the Terra Nova. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are 2 websites for it, Academic Excellence and Seton. I ordered mine from Seton. A lot of people use Academic Excellence. I think Academic Excellence is the one where you they usually have the $5 off coupon for first orders.
And thank you for confirming the spelling of Seton in the chat. I am going to go back on mute now and shut my mouth and let you continue because you are rocking this.
Thank you. Okay, Adrian, that's a great question. So, all right, the thing about going between public school and homeschool. So, Adrian, do you want to unmute and ask your question so everyone can hear it?
So, we're a military family. We've homeschooled in 2 states and 2 countries. And I have had to move my children, between public school, between base DOD schools, just so that they could have other English speakers around and back and forth. And so now that my children are older, specifically with my son, he's getting ready to he will be algebra ready this year. And I haven't decided whether I want to do 1 more year of pre-algebra or just go ahead and take the plunge. And if I want to or need to validate that credit so that he can start back in geometry if he's in public school, how do I get that credit validated? Because I know Virginia's funny about homeschool math classes as far as placement and credit.
So the very short answer is there is no way to guarantee that the school will take it, right? I was a military brat. Every time I changed states and changed schools, I had to take another credit that I didn't have. And this is public school to public school. I had to take a class that was on their standards that I didn't have. So that's part of the nature of it. It's very similar in that way. You could, so one of the things I would recommend is if you know you're going to be in that area for a while, talk to the guidance counselor where he's zoned, right? I don't know what that would look like right now. I'm quite sure there are swamps, but it wouldn't hurt to touch base with the guidance counselor to see what they say.
Okay.
But I will say that no matter what they say, there is no guarantee that they will take your credit.
I mean, I'm kind of hopeful that because of this weird coronavirus situation, that they may be a little bit more flexible.
Honestly, Let me tell you a little secret. Let me tell you a little secret about me, math in public schools. I have no idea why they treat homeschoolers a certain way, because they put kids in the wrong placement all the time.
They are terrible with math placement.
I would say that offering to have him take the algebra SOL is a really good way, because that's a verified credit that he'd have to take anyway.
Right.
And so if he passes that, I would think they'd be hard pressed to say, no, he needs to stay in algebra.
Right. Okay. I will try that. And then the other question I had, sorry, one more tag on, is do you know of any adaptive testing options, like that will adjust based on the level of the student so that you can get a better idea of their ceiling?
Yeah. The online Terra Nova is an adaptive test. It is an adaptive test. So that's another benefit to it. It's easy, it's cheap, it's adaptive, and the bar is not super high. That's one of the reasons that some parents do prefer evaluators. Just knowing that they're not going to get a lot of good information from the test. Now, if you have somebody else do the test and it's one of the intelligence tests, or they're usually intelligence tests, honestly, or academic tests, the academic achievement tests, if you have someone else administer it, those can give you good information. That's usually more expensive because buying those tests is more expensive. So like once you have to qualify to give a test, they usually charge more for it, basically. The highest math, I think that's what the highest required math is algebra. They need, I believe, 3 math credits. And I'm going to go to the Department of Ed website. I will say this, the Department of Ed website is very helpful. I found out that there are other things that I was actually talking to somebody whose student was in public school, and they were concerned about certain credits. And this is for homeschoolers too. There are certain tests that if you take, that it automatically qualifies for certain credits with public school. Like the PSAT, the ACT, the SAT. So if they get certain scores on those, then you don't have to provide the same proof of progress. Graduation. Ooh. Why are there mosquitoes everywhere? Why do they hate me? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just putting graduation requirements. VDOE, graduation requirements. So a standard diploma, you have to have 3 credits in math, and that's out of Algebra 1. You have to have at least 2. So these are public school standards. They choose between Algebra 1, Geometry. Those are usually the 2 that most students do, Algebra 1 and Geometry. So the other ones are Algebra Functions, Data Analysis, Algebra 2, or any other mathematics course offered. A lot of schools are starting to do a financial education course. Actually, that might be. Yep, that's now required by the schools for graduation, but economics and personal finance. So I don't know if that would satisfy both. Tamara, did that answer your question? As far as the maths?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome.
And I love how quickly you researched that. Get it,
research
sis.
is my jam.
Hey.
I love research. Love research. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. I have one more question.
Sure.
Do you have any experience with the online map test? They used to use it when we lived in Washington State, but I don't know if it's still in use or if it's available to homeschoolers or not.
I Googled it as you were saying it. I'd heard of it. Are you talking about the career assessment?
It's not a career assessment. It's
Or-
another adaptive test.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to make sure that I find something, and I'm sure Terra Nova does as well, but just so that I have a choice, something with a high ceiling to it.
Got you. You want to make sure you find out how far he can go.
Yes, and I don't want to go and do the whole PSAT thing. You know, that's too long. It's too much time. He's not that old yet.
I understand that. That makes perfect sense. Although I believe the PSAT is pretty short.
Is it really short?
I think it's much shorter than the SAT.
Okay, it's been a couple decades. So.
It's been a little while over here. I must say, 11th grade was a long time ago, in a place far, far away. The Brigands isn't a computer. The Terra Nova. If anybody wants to know what I'm looking at the HEAVE's website, Home Educators Association of Virginia, because I knew they had a page on testing. Most of the tests, other than the Terra Nova, are not computer tests. The only one that I'm wondering about is this one, because it doesn't actually tell you if it's a computer test, which would be helpful, but since it didn't. Oh, look at that. These look like it looks like a paper test. Yeah, I think the Terra Nova is the only. Now there is discussion. There has been discussion. If y'all are not in the Homeschooling in Hampton Roads big group, I highly recommend that you join it, just because they've been around for a super long time, and a lot of the information that they have is information that they'll check with the state and the homeschool liaisons for the state, things like that. So that's where I am now. Before I was in one place and now I'm in another. I'm trying, because I know there's another test and I can't remember the name of it. And I honestly, the Terra Nova, I don't think it'll give you that ceiling you're looking for. Oh, look at that. Map growth test. Mm-hmm.
I know that it was a good option back in the day, but I haven't looked at it. We were overseas for 3 years, so I haven't looked at it in at least 5. But
well, I feel like if it's actually listed in the Homeschooling in Hampton Roads unit, then that's a pretty good recommendation, because basically they won't put anything in there that, yep.
I will look those up then. Thank you.
The map growth test is, I think it's like $60.
Okay. And when do we have to have the test results in by?
So the proof of progress is due by the 1st. Most families test in March or April, because if it's not online and you're doing paper, you have to order it, you have to get it in, you have to send it back.
Okay.
Oh, this is a great website. I'm going to add this to my website. All right. I'm glad you asked. So the online CAT is not adaptive.
Oh. Okay.
but the map growth is adaptive.
Okay. Cool.
The Stanford 10 has an online version, but it is also not adaptive. The map growth is untimed, and it was normed most recently in 2015, which actually makes it a really good.
Oh, good.
All right, that was a nice little rabbit hole. All right, we all got some new information. I like it.
Shay, I'm sorry to cut in.
Go, cut
Beautiful
on in,
sentence.
cut away.
Were y'all saying map or math?
Map, M-A-P, and I'll put it in the chat
Nah,
too.
thank you so
Okay,
much.
I put in MAPP because I'd heard of that, probably because I had to do a cycle of career testing when I was in school for psych. This is the map growth. There's more stuff. NWE. Okay, there we go. So yeah, the due dates, Shannon put it in the chat, which reminded me, I don't remember if I actually answered it. The due dates are August, they're all August. August 1st for proof of progress, August 15th for notice of intent. I don't know if we have any teachers on this, but just in case we do, because I'm a teacher, I don't file under homeschooling. I file under compulsory attendance. And I do that because under compulsory attendance, apparently if you're a teacher, the state just trusts that you're going to educate your kids properly. I don't know that I would give teachers that much credit. Don't get me wrong. I love good teachers, but I know enough teachers that aren't good that I don't know that I would trust them. Anyway, under compulsory attendance, as a certified tutor, because I am a certified teacher, I don't have to do proof of progress. And I only have to submit my notice one time, and that lasts until my license expires.
Hey, Shay, I have a question.
What's up?
We're under compulsory attendance as well. My husband is technically my kid's teacher,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm just here doing everything else.
Principal.
Yeah, he's the principal and he's on the paperwork. So even though we don't have to do proof of progress, I have been doing the CAT every year because I just like to have that information on file for myself. And it has come in handy when I returned my middle schooler to middle school, public middle school, because I was able to present it and they were like, oh, you got records. So they liked that. But for my younger student, doing the CAT was traumatic every year. It took us like 4 days, lots of tears. And I don't know if it's the CAT or if it's test anxiety or what.
Anything like my kid, which our kids have met, and they do seem like they could be similar. So the first year, we did a first grade CAT. And so this was before my kid could read. And we hadn't really done any testing because I'm unschoolish. Like I'm not super dedicated to any type of curriculum. And so we hadn't done any testing. So I did a little bit of testing before we started. And then we took the test. And we got to the end and he had to read on his own. Oh, he almost died.
Same. I had the same experience.
Yeah. And so one of the things I think that segues very well into like who should get an evaluation, but again, public schools, if you do go back to public school, there's no telling what the school will do. So when we went back in 4th grade, they didn't ask me for any paperwork, and I think they thought that my kid was going to be a slow bunny rabbit. And so they do their own assessments at this. He went to Bayside Elementary. They do their own assessments. They had a reading group and I was like, okay, he might end up in the reading group. they did their own assessments. He was fine. He actually ended the school year and his teacher gave him most improved because of how quickly he was able to catch up.
That's good.
So the schools, it really depends on the school. As far as who usually gets an evaluation, so we often do evaluations for students who are younger, students who have test anxiety, that whole, oh my gosh, I'm going to get something wrong and the world is going to end.
Yep.
For exceptional learners, ADHD, autism, gifted, medical needs, we've done evaluations for all of those. Unschoolers, I get a lot of unschoolers who are like, we don't have a curriculum. So how do we show that our kid learned something? And then so that our process is we interview very informally. We usually meet with the family, and I sit and I talk with the parents, and I talk with the kids, and we talked about how the school year went, and I ask what they've learned, depending on how much material is available for me to see, like kind of from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Sometimes I'll do a bit of informal assessment. And when I say informal, I mean, I might take out a piece of construction paper and a pencil and ask them to do a couple of things. A lot of times the students are very happy because it doesn't feel at all like testing. And again, I think the thing that I always want to drive home to families is the state is just looking to see that your student is progressing, right? So your child's progress doesn't have to look like anybody else's progress at all. Your student's progress is your student's progress. If y'all added 3 more
Hold
steps.
on. You need praise hands for that.
So if your student has gained 3 more things throughout the year, and that's all y'all could do because maybe you had a baby or a house fire and, just life happens, right? But if your kid is learning, and kids learn so much just by being in an environment where parents are intentional about talking to them. I cannot overstate the importance of talking to your kids and telling them how things work and about stuff. They learn so much. They're sponges. Watching documentaries, listening to audiobooks, things like that, going to the store, going outside, identifying leaves, like things like that. Those are the things that kids learn from. And so all of that can be part of what it looks like to have proof of progress.
Great. You answered my question because my second question was, what samples do we need to provide you if we choose an evaluation? So
Right. And it's really just whatever y'all have been working on. And I like to see like beginning, middle, end, if available. And if not, like I said, we figure it out. Adrian was pointing out that students learn asynchronously. I think I said that right. So yeah, some students are light years ahead in math and 2 years behind in reading. So the question is not, oh, are they at grade level in reading and math? The question is, oh, did they learn more in math this year? Did they learn more in reading this year? Did they pick up more skills than they started the year with? That's what the question is.
that is so good. Whew.
I just remember my son, if you talk to him, his vocabulary was at one place, but when he sat down to take the standardized test, having never taken a standardized test before, half of the learning was how to fill in the bubbles, how to pace yourself, how to make sure that you're not coloring outside of the line so that you don't accidentally indicate a different answer than what you intended. So all of those skills that we kind of take for granted about how to do the testing,
right,
was not something that he
been
had
through the ringer, and we know all the steps. And some of the ways that my kid will answer. So questions are meant to be answered in a certain way. So for kids who haven't been traditionally schooled, they will get a question, and their brain does not go to the same box that public school tries to fit everybody in, and so their answer will make sense. but it'll be wrong because that's not the answer we're looking for in a test.
Exactly. That was our struggle the first year he took a test, and we did it because I felt like he needed practice with that skill, not because it was for me to learn where he was, but because this was another skill set we needed to develop.
I was watching when we did the cat test. I was like looking over his shoulder as he answered some of the questions. And after we were done and I knew I wouldn't correct it, I went back and I asked him, I was like, so why did you answer the question this way? Because I really needed to know. And it made sense. It made perfect sense when he explained it from his brain.
And you'll get special big problems with overthinkers, kids who are just, they're looking for where's the trick? Where's the trick?
Just kids, like my kid is a connector. And so his brain connects all types of, like, he'll get a fact and it'll connect to all the other information possibly related to that fact. And he just sees things very differently. What I'll do too is when we post this video is I'll put a link to our webpage that does evaluations, and there's a sample on the webpage. So you can see what the letter itself looks like. And it's pretty short and it just ends with, it is the, I don't even know exactly what it says, but it basically says this evaluator believes that this student has made adequate progress. And we haven't had any trouble so far.
Shay, 360citizens.org, right?
360citizens.org.
Okay. Make sure I spelled that right.
You did.
Yay.
But I should probably update it because the evaluations link is not on the main page.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's not your fault. It's my fault. it's not you.
Well, that gives us a chance to surf around the page.
Yeah, check us out. See what else we're doing. We have virtual tutors too. So if y'all know anybody who's looking for tutors, we actually have volunteers that are offering tutoring at no charge.
Great.
They just have to pay the registration fee.
Excellent. What subjects are they tutoring in?
Just about all of them, honestly.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we have tutors who are qualified to work from K through college.
Awesome.
That's good to know because of my older student, I would really like to shore up her reading skills a little bit before she leaves me for good.
Yeah. Yeah. We also, there's also a new nonprofit co-op that's starting up that I'm part of because I can't stop doing educational things. It's called Kaleidoscope Academy, and it's a project-based learning co-op. So once that's ready, I'll put it in the group as well.
I would put something in the chat, but I don't know how to spell kaleidoscope.
Okay, so I'm a great speller. I didn't know how to spell kaleidoscope properly.
Listen.
But I promise I will share the link as soon as registration and the website is finalized. I promise.
My spelling is not great.
Yes. Tamara has it. She got it.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, how did you do that?
I put an A where that other O goes. Is whatever. English sucks.
I messed that up.
English sucks.
English wasn't my strongest. English wasn't my strongest subject.
So, real talk, one of the reasons kids have so much trouble with reading and spelling is because English doesn't actually make any sense.
Hello.
At all.
I didn't realize that until I started homeschooling.
Yeah, when you start trying to teach and you're like, wait a minute. There's a coffee mug with the I before E rule, and then it has like all the exceptions on it.
Mm-hmm.
I learned this for myself when I had to start teaching Chinese students English rules.
Yeah.
God love them. I don't know how they do it.
Wow.
They're determined and dedicated.
I mean, would you all say that it's repetition? Is that how we learn English?
It's repetition and it's osmosis. You learn it by hearing. You just learn the rule.
Oh, by hearing.
So yeah, it's language, because so one of the things that I realized is that if you pronounce a word wrong, you're going to spell it wrong, because you're not hearing it correctly.
Mm.
And basic syllabication rules, like that helps considerably, even with unfamiliar rules, but we don't teach basic syllabication anymore.
We don't. I don't remember learning it either. I also don't remember learning how to read, so.
Me either.
I was totally unequipped to have a child who was dyslexic. I was not prepared. I was not equipped.
I learned the days of the week from listening to R&B. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was like, got it. Booyah. I know my days of the week.
Oh, you hit me.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in?
Yes, Patricia, go ahead.
So you all didn't learn phonics. Is that what you're saying? No phonics?
I don't remember phonics.
I learned phonics.
I did.
Well,
I went with my kids.
I went to school like 100 years ago. I graduated high school in 1971, if don't tell you anything.
I'm with Patricia.
So
I taught my son phonics, but I don't remember learning phonics myself.
Yeah. I do know I learned phonics. I know that the way they teach it now, so I'm going to sound like the crazy lady, and that's fine. Y'all, if y'all have younger kids, I mean, if you've already done it, you can't really undo it. Stop teaching your kids sight words. Please stop teaching your kids sight words. For the love of everything that is holy, please stop teaching your kids sight words. That's why I had to say it, because I know.
It's the gospel. True.
So, here, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you exactly what happened. And so I'm going to tell y'all a statistic that was on the website and we took it down. But do y'all realize that 67% of students have basic literacy, which basically means they cannot read to comprehend? 67%. And that is nationwide, and that is all the way till they graduate. So these students are getting diplomas with this level of literacy. When they teach sight words, they teach kids to guess at the word. Right? They teach them to guess. They say, look at this first letter. Now look at the picture. Now look at this letter. And what is this word?
And most of those
I didn't know that's how
coded with phonics.
Yeah. A lot of them are actually phonetic.
Are you saying that's what they are? I'm sorry. Are you saying that's how they teach in school?
I didn't know that.
That is how they're teaching in school.
I did not know that, because that's not how I teach my son sight words. I don't teach my son like that.
They send them home with sight words, and they have them look at them again and again until they memorize them.
I'm pretty sure that's why when I pulled my kindergartner out of public school, I had to redo kindergarten. And he was supposed to know 100 sight words, and he did not know 100 sight words.
What?
And we started breaking down the sounds and syllables.
Phonetically,
Oh, I taught my son. That was how I taught my son his sight words. That's crazy.
I'm so glad you ladies are saying this, because my granddaughter, she's got sight words, and grandma has been going over those sight words with me, and I'm like, whoa.
Because what happens? So they can read, right, by the end of kindergarten, first grade, because they've mastered enough words visually. Then what happens when the words start getting complicated? And
that's where my daughter started to struggle.
And there are no more pictures.
8th, 9th, 10th grade books. When you get ready to start reading Shakespeare and you can't decode a multisyllabic word because you can't chunk it.
Yep.
You don't understand open and closed syllables, then you're kind of screwed.
Suffixes.
So having to go back and rehabilitate those basic skills sucks.
And I have to say, my middle schooler went to private school when learning to read and was an early reader, like preschool early reader. But they did a Becca in the preschool and kindergarten, and excellent reader. She can break down everything.
Yeah.
They can break it down.
And I think too, even those, so 67, that means 33%, even those 33% that are reading proficiently or advanced, some kids' brains just work that way. There are kids who will pick up on the patterns as they read. Wow. So, like, I can't understand why we're not teaching to the lowest denominator, the kids who won't pick it up, the kids who don't see the detail in the letters. But, you know, what do I know?
So Shay, we're wrapping up. These are great conversations about progressing through those big topics like math and English, and I really appreciate that information. How do we contact you so that we can continue these individual conversations or pick your brain or sign up for some of your services?
You can always tag me in the group because I am in the HRHBE group. Oh, you're very welcome. That makes me very happy. Also, our website, that link that I put in, but 360citizens.org. And I'll put our number in there too.
Okay. You want me to do it? Are you driving?
No, I'm not driving. I just got in the car to get ready to drive. I'm about to lie to y'all though.
Can I say something? It has nothing to do with homeschool or anything, but Shay, do you have allergies? Because I noticed you keep sniffing.
I do, and I'm glad you said that.
Okay, you know what? Do you like garlic?
I don't. I mean, I do. I do.
But you know what? Tell people this, and they're like, no, not happening. But garlic tea is excellent. Garlic tea. It has ginger, garlic, honey. You know, it's just, and it's good for all that.
You have a recipe? Because
I do have a recipe. Okay. I do have a recipe, but it's for respiratory, you know, and so the you have to like garlic though. So, but actually that ginger.
I'll deal with it. These allergies. So normally I have just the spring allergies, and I take this immune supplement that usually works very well. Okay. This year I went through 2